I know you wrote an article about some of the top 30 visits that the Browns have had. One of them was a quarterback, Joe Milton, a strong-arm guy from Tennessee. What have you been hearing and found out about Milton?
Well, they've been having some quarterbacks in part because it's always good to take a look at good developmental quarterbacks. So that's number one. And then also Dorian Thompson-Robinson is still recovering from his hip injury. So I don't think he's ready to practice yet. And they are going to need another camp arm. And Joe brings dual threat ability and just a huge arm. He's a raw talent, but someone definitely worth developing and taking a look at.
Another guy that I know you focused in that is Tristan Sweat, and that's a big guy, defensive tackle from Texas. Had ended up with a DUI a couple weeks ago in that draft cycle, which is never a good thing. What have you gathered about Sweat?
Well, I was thinking about this. It's never a good thing, and you're right about that. But probably better for NFL teams to find this out about Tavondre Sweat now than to draft him and have something like this happen after rookie minicamp. So I think it's good because now you can go into it with open eyes and you're not going to be surprised by anything that happens. Now you have to dig deeper and find out, was this such an isolated situation or could this be a recurring problem? And you really have to have a comfort level with the answer that you get on that. So I think that it was a blessing in disguise that happened now because you can really figure out what it's all about.
And the third guy that we'll focus on in the top 30 visits, a wide receiver, and you kind of alluded to him, Malachi Corley, Western Kentucky. That's the guy that's been comped to Deebo Samuel.
Yes, and it's definitely intriguing to study and to look at a player like that because you can do so many things and be so versatile if you have a player that can play that wide back type of role. Use him in the running game, use him as a wide receiver. It's the kind of thing that they tried to do a little bit with Elijah Moore, but I don't know if Elijah can withstand some of the hits that he would have to take. You kind of want a little bit of a bigger player to play that role for you. Wouldn't rule some of those reps out for Elijah Moore because now that he's got his sea legs in the system and here in Cleveland, you can probably do some more things with him. But a little bit bigger of a player might be better served there.
All right, here's the top 30s that we know about, and we took these actually from your article. So we mentioned those top three. They've also had tight end Eric All from Iowa. The tackle from Yale, I butcher his name every time I say it, so we'll just, he's a guy that they've had in. Trey Benson's an intriguing one as well. Cone, a guard that you would expect. Franklin, we talked about him, wide receiver. Another wide receiver, Michael Hall, defensive tackle from Streetsboro High School and Ohio State. You see the quarterback you talked about, Michael Pratt from Tulane. Hicks, another cornerback from Mississippi State, Cameron Richards, and then you see Jatavian Sanders, a higher end tight end, as well as another offensive tackle from Brigham Young. So we know for certain that Andrew Berry values both lines just based on his draft history. What do you think the draft looks like? I know we've talked, trying to figure out what the Browns are going to do is going to be a challenge for any draft analyst.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it could be a situation where all of a sudden you find that he takes two linebackers back to back or two offensive guards. Nobody knows the way that this is going to go. The trends that we know that Andrew Berry likes are he likes to draft players very young, so he'll look for guys that he can develop and keep around for a while. And he loves his cornerbacks, so you can always look for those defensive backs, cornerback safeties to be added to the football team. And I think, again, they want to have as many weapons as they can for Deshaun Watson, so you might want to look for a receiver there. They probably could use another tight end. They have Giovanni Ricci to play tight end as well as David Njoku and Jordan Akins, but they could use another body there. And And again, we talked about quarterback. They probably need one more to develop and also as a camp arm.
You mentioned one of the things that it's becoming really clear that it wasn't before this regime, so prior to Andrew Berry, the Browns kind of moved on from younger guys pretty quickly. They do not do that. And you know what? I think it sends the message to the people that are scouting, we believe in what you're doing. We're going to give these guys time to develop.
Yes, and they definitely do. And that's why they like to get them young, because now this roster, it's a pretty solid roster. And there's not 6 openings. You're not looking to the draft to fill 6 or 7 starting positions. You'll be looking for supplemental players and players that can complement some of your starters, but you're not in the need of a starting defensive end or a starting offensive tackle right now. You just don't need that caliber of player. So they can draft them young and bring them on in here and let them learn the system and go from there.